Hello, my name is Heather and I'm an oil painter and mixed media artist. Today I'm going to be art journaling in my altered book. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I hope that you will for future art videos, and let's get right to it. So today we're going to be creating this spread. It's a little flip book. How cute is that? Mine is still a little, the glue is still a little wet, which is why I'm holding it down. But they're so super sweet. So let me show you how to do it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is put a papered bag down and strengthen up my spine. Do you see where my book is kind of ripping apart there? And I'm using Mod Podge to glue this down. Okay, then the next step is I'm taking some sheet music that I have coffee dyed, and I have ripped it up in little pieces, and I'm just gluing that down with Mod Podge. You can use any type paper that you choose for this step. Okay, we're going to sit that to the side so it can dry, and the next thing I have is 3x5 cards that I cut out of a cereal box, and I'm just going to cover these front and back with music paper. Again, this is just simple collage. You can do this with any type of paper that you choose. This is just what I had. Okay, so you're going to make sure that that layer is dry, and then do exactly the same thing on the back. Okay, so the next step is I have taken some Tim Holtz paper dolls and just scanned them and printed them out on a piece of copy paper. And now I am taking a little stencil and just stenciling around each image. And I'm using a makeup brush and vintage photo in my stencil. Okay, then I'm taking my tear ruler and I'm just tearing out the images. Then I'm taking some vintage photo and inking around the sides. The stencil that I used is also a Tim Holtz stencil. Okay, so the next step is I have some dark brown acrylic paint, and I'm just putting a little on each piece, and I'm going to take a credit card and just smear it over those papers. And see how the paint spreads over those papers and that texture? It gives you a really interesting looking background. Okay, and you want this layer to be dry, and then you're going to do exactly the same thing on the back. Just drag that paint down, you can't mess it up. Okay, and this layer needs to dry before we move on to the next layer. Okay, so the next step is to get some gesso and a couple of magazine pages, and we're going to spread some gesso out on each of these squares. Then we're going to lay a magazine page down and pull it up. We're going to pull gesso up with the magazine page and create some really interesting texture. And look at that neat texture. If there are places of gesso that you didn't get really well, just fold your magazine up and hit it again. You're going to do exactly the same thing on the back. Put some gesso down and then pick that gesso up with magazine. Okay, so the next thing is we're putting a coat of Mod Podge, and I ripped up some book pages just to kind of frame out these pictures. And I'm inking on the side with Vintage Photo. When I put the Mod Podge on, the ink runs a little bit, and I love that. You're going to do this step on the front and the back of each card. One thing that I did is I put a front and back on each card. You really only need to put a front and a back on 3 cards, and then one card just has like one front on it. You don't have to put a back on it. I got a little carried away, so. And of course you want this layer to dry before we move on to the next step. Okay, so I got my book back out, and what I'm going to do is put a coat of Mod Podge down, and then I'm going to lay a beautiful napkin over it. Isn't this napkin so pretty? I loved it. This was gifted to me. And I know there are some wrinkles in my napkin, and I totally welcome that. I just think it gives it more character. And then you want to make sure that is completely dry. Okay, so now back to our 4 cards. What I've got are some stamps here, and I'm going to glue those on with art glitter glue. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to put these little labels down, and I got these labels from Scrappy Bird. They're super cute. And I'm just inking around them with Vintage Photo, and I'm gluing them down with art glitter glue. And I have these words, I believe these are Tim Holtz, and I'm just going to put some words in each of my labels. Okay, so the next step is I have some stamps, and I'm just going to do some stamping on each of these cards. Okay, so the next step is I have a stipolo, and I'm going to go around the edges on the front and the back of each card. I love the stipolo for shading. And I bought this on Amazon. You can buy boxes of them on Amazon. Okay, then I got my altered book back out and I'm going to do stipple around the napkin. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to get a piece of watercolor paper and or mixed media paper, whatever you have. And one is going to be 5 inches and one is going to be 1 inch that you're going to need to cut them at. Then you're going to get your ruler and you're going to measure out to 3 inches. Then a 1/2 inch, then another 1/2 inch, then another 1/2 inch. Okay, and where your little dots are, just make a line going all the way down. Okay, so the next step is to get your scoreboard and score each of these lines. Okay, and then you want to just fold the creases really, really well on each line. You just want to decorate this page a little bit. You can just add some ink splatters, you can do a little stenciling, however you would like to decorate it. You could paint it, it's entirely up to you. I'm just going to use a makeup brush and do a little stenciling with some vintage photo, spray some vintage photo. also going to spray some vintage photo on the 1-inch piece of paper that we cut. Okay, so the next step is you're going to need some tacky glue and your 4 cards that we created. And you're going to glue your first card on this part. And this is the card that doesn't need a backing or any embellishments on the back. Then you're going to glue the first one down. And you want to make sure that it's not right on the crease line. Give yourself a little space. And then we're going to put a little glue on the next line and put a card down. And then on the next line, and then on the next line. And I got some clips to hold the side because I'm using tacky glue, and just until the glue is dry. And now I'm just going to cut out a little handle. You can totally draw something there and then cut it out. I'm just kind of winging it. Okay, and now I'm going to sew a little button on and tie a little knot. Start from the back, go up one hole and back and forth that way. Then I'm going to tie a knot in the back. Okay, then you're going to get your 1-inch strip and you're going to kind of center it in the middle. And you're just going to draw a couple of lines. Now I would suggest where your lines are, give yourself like another little 1/2 inch where you fold it, just so it'll have some wiggle room. And you can cut some of that flap off. You don't need all that. Yeah, you see where I cut some of it off? Yep. Then you're just going to glue this down on your book. And you really need to let the glue set, overnight before you start pulling on your book. That's why I was holding mine in the beginning, because the glue was still wet. You definitely want this to sit overnight. And I'm kind of doing it over towards the right. You just want to make sure that you can close your book. You just want to make sure the image doesn't get caught in the spine, basically. Slide your little booklet into your little piece of paper. You put some glue on that paper strip, and then you're going to shut it. And then if you have like a book weight or something, that would be cool to lay on top of that overnight and let it dry really well. And voila, here is our little spread. I'm holding it down because my glue is still wet, but it's just a little flip book. Is that not the cutest? So sweet. I hope this inspires you to play in your altar book. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I hope that you will for future art videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!